Hello everyone. Today's talk is called Reign of Parallel Realities. And this is not a talk which should be the first talk of mine you're hearing, because I am talking about the fruits of man's consciousness, but man needs to first get awareness of his roots. And what this simply means is that the awareness of man has an ability to be aware of itself beyond the physical dimension. And when I speak about the reign of parallel realities, it is very important the type of platforms of experience in which we move through to then communicate. You see, all life is intelligent, and so there reaches a point where in how you're acknowledging this intelligence, you find a very beautiful being standing in a very great position. It is you find within all. And to make this more clear is that if you were standing in the rain, that beauty of an atmosphere of rain that you get is actually your experience of the moment. It is a very beautiful setting to see that parallel realities are to an experience of the moment that is simultaneous. So in other words, you as a being first had the ability to hear one thing, now as a being have the ability to see many things. And so life is very beautiful. It communicates to itself, and as it communicates to itself, it allows itself. You in a moment will begin seeing that you're not just standing, perhaps like me, on a bench with a park bench late at night, but you're in a sense a person who's also standing on a mountain in the image of your memory. And so our memory is our reality, and it's not something to share with others to then have judged. We are a presence on our own, and we listen through our being. When you recognize that life listens through its totality, there's never a more that's missing. In other words, you realize the in a sense, playful humor in how God hears everything you say. It is not just God, it is the collective sense of existential intelligence that knows what you are. So in a moment you become an awareness to being beyond your form, and you realize the potential of a spiritual sense of reality is not one that is basking or covered in imagery, but is one where direct experience has had a value unspeakable, and so you're walking in new ways. Now, when a being becomes aware of their subtler reality, what they find is that knowledge is really not knowledge if knowledge is associated to a form. If you think you know something, the minute you change, you will feel the emptiness in your vessel and who you are. And so beautifully, the interpretation of sound is beyond just the words you say and what they mean. It's the intention, how you're saying it as a being, and really the vision that you have, in whose window is your reflection clear. And so you will realize the clarity of life, it's an existential awareness. In other words, it's cool to read books, but sometimes after going to the library every day to ask deep questions, you realize, okay, is there another method of knowing beyond rationality, beyond logic? Could my experience of self be so vast that my ignorance is limiting my awareness to my self-communication? And so could there be a collective knowing in my all individual confusions? We all confront aspects of ourselves that talk. And so what that means is similar to how you have the ability to see a person or another human being asking you for something, or for example, experiencing a homeless person in which in your eyes they should never be homeless. for people who cannot find the satisfaction of, let's say, social settings or a family, they must become really clear that their life is their home. So after everybody has left you, after you have gone alone, after you have become that man long ago who has gone in the mountains, and so there's no longer a family around to even linger in his memory, and he's simply being absorbed in the experience of his being. Life allows itself, and in that allowance, greater observance comes. We see that our beautiful ability to love another is the ability for our reality to be omnipresent, to be in a sense multidimensional. So the minute I give a very beautiful, for example, gift to someone, their reception and simply my observance of the act is like a gift for me, because the ability of man's mind is complex. It looks at one thing and it can take that into a spiral of multidimensionality based on the imagery that you have so far. So, in other words, it's as if many people are interested in the Rubik's Cube. You want an advanced Rubik's Cube, look through the mystic's eyes and see how is this reality kept together? What ideology is making it meaningful, in a sense meaningless, and how is that transition happening? Because when we're in an infinitely changing and expanding universe, regardless of the amount of quotations we use, this is it. It is our understanding of this moment which has a choice to be more physicalized or to have more of a self-awareness where greater dimensions of life are in a sense explored internally. So what that means is it's not like a game. It's not like I'm saying, oh man, do this and you'll go get this good, you'll get good in this game and you'll get, this reward or whatever. No, it's like you just stop everything in your life for a minute, you breathe, you go in nature, and in silence and stillness, you're like, what am I? And you ask the most deepest question, the question where if life was standing in front of you and you could ask it anything, and that question, And so perhaps that question would be like, what am I? And so when you question existence, there is a silence if you question it with all your voice. In other words, if you shout out this question to existence, after you have sincerely done it, you will see that it is your interest and excitement for the unknown that has always been giving you your eternal knowing. A sense of profound nothingness is the actuality of the experience, because it cannot be in thought. So if you see a teacher or a guru or someone's like, hey buddy, I got nice thoughts, these thoughts can be you. You wanna get on this wagon, Pinocchio's wagon or something. So actually you need to recognize that a fool is one who didn't look when he could. And so you always can look deeper. It is the freest thing you will find in life. What is it? It's self-awareness. Go sit down, be calm, be gentle. There's so many practices and methods in which you don't need to go to a meditation. You don't need to let a meditation come to you, because when you listen to life, you get a gentleness in which your life, your moment of existence and experience guides you. It's like in your most profound and deepest moments of self-contemplation, where you're observing the moment of existence that you are, you also see that it's like when you go in really deep focus and really seeing what your being is, you will see the nature of your being is beyond your intelligence of rationality. Because the intelligence of rationality is a certain energetic level of mind and expression. So it's that you as consciousness are accepting that your communication is being the only communication. But you seeing you're not. In other words, regardless if I have a scientist say something to me that is, for example, very obvious, of course, in textbooks or whatever, if I know in my experience beyond this sense of conception of space and time and awareness that is even aware of this space and time, then it is not something that we are not here to change one another. We're here to observe the change that we are. And so that is when great changes bloom. That is when it appears. Because I noticed that when I wanted to really, if I took the idea of compassion extremely far, and I'm like, how could I be the most compassionate being? And I'm like, the most compassionate being is one who recognizes that every moment of his being is for his totality. So you as consciousness, as an individual consciousness, are like, I am present, and the reason I'm individual is because I can see other, and so other is giving me a sense of collective. So all that is in my experience is the love of life that I have. So you do not just love, for example, your parents or your partner, you love all that you know as life. And so in this moment, you have found the freedom in which there's a selfless observance. And this selfless observance is simply that wind that just hits you, where it's such an intense wind where you have to stop. And so as you have stopped, you're seeing the movement of life. And you will open up to simultaneous reality naturally. So it is a natural process. The pilots of consciousness must be very, very aware of nature. You must simply realize that, okay, you've been receiving knowing to a certain range of information, such as books and, your iPhone or whatever. But now, just forget all the gadgets and try to see what intuition means and how much you're tuned to your environment and oriented. How are you oriented as a being? What does space mean to you? What does time mean to you? Do not keep the dictionary just in front of your eyes where you're not looking at the world in front of you. Use those dictionary and use them and make a bridge to stand up off any wall of ideology. Because it is the grace of our understanding that provides the beauty in how we function. There are moments where we are meaningful not just to ourselves, but to many others. And so as we see that beings, through their ability to understand the concept of love, compassion, and devotion to life, in a sense recognize that their contribution becomes more than the physical, because they know of that which has observed the physical. So in a sense, it's a non-physical, unspeakable dimension, but it is your internal dimension of experience. So it's unspeakable to other, but internally to you, it is profound. And so when you see that we are a multidimensional being, that means we are present in many realities of an individual conception. So once that we choose a spectrum, and once that we're divided, once that I have stepped into the world of form, and there's distance between my hand and the remote controller, I simply see that it is my awareness to my knowing, which is the clarity that does not get rid of my problems, but sees that it is beyond a dynamic where there's a self that is problematic. It's as if walking through being an answer to all questions of life, because you know it is beyond it. But it is an experiential knowing, and you will see knowledge comes to you based on how real ideas and images in front of you are. So if you are that person who are like, gosh, I've seen so many smart people, gosh, and you have that distinction that you are not smart, I want you to stop. Being smart, you can choose it to see as an idea relevant to logic, rationality, how many books you've read. But in a sense, if you were to be more than smart, let's say you chose not to just be smart, you chose to be the clearest being. In other words, you're knowing what you are as existence is the clearest and most aware being. Let's say that was the goal. It wasn't happiness, it wasn't smartness, it wasn't abundance in physicality. It was just the knowing of being the most clearest. So as if being a clear view. You will see that how that process occurs is based on your acknowledgement of your immediate surroundings. You need to see that life must be so important for you that your immediate surroundings become interesting for you and become deep questions. So every day I walk, it's like I can no longer be in the same place. Every time I walk in my room, it's a new room, new mind, a new set of thought. It's as if you're seeing this part of the forest, and so it's in a sense the ability to allow the abstraction within you to naturally present itself, and so you're no longer an insane person, which is a very ridiculous idea, and very incapable idea, because there's no good handling for insanity when you label it like that. However, we want to see that we want to utilize the present moment all that is common sense, and we do not want to completely break our ideologies. Like, you cannot go back and relive another life so that you feel the words mean something else to you. What you can do is be aware of the movement of not just your physical body, not just a physical form, but also of the observer and also of thought. So you're becoming aware of how you are being expressed as a moment of existence. And so that has a profound quality to it. I'm not going to say it's eternity, but I'm going to say you will discover all your concepts beyond their meaning. Once you reach that state of, it's an internal silence, but it is very loud. It's as if like, it's loud as in, for example, within my experience, a parallel reality is not known as something being separate. So for me, parallel realities are not idea that, oh, I'm in here and then there's another version of me. No. That's how the mind tries to interpret it. Parallel realities is actually your essence is not dictated by chronology. It's not chronological. And so because your essence is not, and it knows it is beyond how it is kept in the space and time, it does not change the space and time, but it has the knowing that it is beyond it, so it becomes an empty sense of being. And what that means is that, imagine the grandfather, you become a grandfather of, let's say, psychology or something. I don't know what that means, but in a sense, what it could mean is that you become that moment where, let's say, you're an elder and you see your grandchildren walking in front of you. You allow them to play. You're not like, don't touch that, even though some elders do that. But you allow life. When you see one aspect of life allowing another aspect of life, that is when individuality is always reunited. And so, in that sense, it's like you may choose to see 5 dimensions by saying I have 5 fingers, but you also need to have the awareness that they all come from the same palm. So what that means is that it's as if like gas is aware of all the raindrops, and so is also aware of how solid, for example, the experience of ice could be. But in a sense, the different transitions of this are all preserved within a nothing context. So what that means is that you will look through your life and you will look at every program of movement, action, identification, ideology, theory, and you will suddenly see that beyond all these ways of acknowledging it, you are more than just something in life. Just something. You're literally, the concept of a thing goes. Because you will see emptiness dissolve. And so what is gas but a non-presence of solid and liquid? So you will see this multidimensionality is present suddenly, but at the same time it is also non-existent. So people need to realize the concept of simultaneous realities is not a very image-like thing, but it is there for your creative expression. So simultaneous realities will suddenly become that amazing moment where the writer was not just writing a sentence about, for example, Dorothy, but it was her eye, it was like her present moment, it was her memory, it was her awareness, it was how life communicated to her, it was how the pen was made, and it was how conception chose to write those words. And so there's a profound element when there is no longer space and time, because there's no one observing you. Do you know what I mean? It's like there's no sense of punishment when there's no sense of space and time. So you feel guilty in space and time, but when you observe space and time, your experience always gravitates towards an internal knowing. An internal knowing means that regardless of how much this salesman has told me this fridge is an awesome fridge, do I really need that fridge in my house? Like, I know how much room my house has, right? It might not fit in my house, right? So pretty much what I'm saying is that it is in managing the easy aspects of reality in which the complex can be very, in an able manner, in an integrative manner, explored or communicated. It is you who has kept your beauty here. reality is more than a game, because you will see that you will get tired of games, and when you do, you as a being will stand beyond any ideology. You will literally wake up and you're like, okay, enough. And when you have that okay enough moment of like, you're no longer in the same idea. In other words, it's like you've observed the thought of stress, depression to a point where you're like, gosh, this cannot be me. This cannot be me, right? And so that intensity of knowing who you are is just like that moment where perhaps a white lion has roared. You will see, you know as a life form how to move in this information, which is this reality. Because we're all in form. We're all information. However, the observance of information is beyond conceptualization, and that is where the nectar of spirituality is valuable. It is when your experience is loving everything in its reality, that through its allowance to love everything, life has opened up to it. In other words, guys, this is a personal sense of what I'm going to tell you is a personal thing. And what I mean by that is that I went through certain life processes to understand this. And what that is that at first I went to this set of mind where I chased things. I chased things and I wanted things. And so I was successful many times at getting the things I wanted. But I noticed it's as if me as a being acting in that manner wasn't a total communication. It's like even though I had the things that I wanted, the satisfactions of the reality, the very elegant desires of the social animals that I had in a sense become, you would see that it's as if that expression, it's as if how you were living wasn't fulfilling. It wasn't the party, it wasn't what you were doing, it wasn't even the habit. It was how you were living, and how you were living was how aware of your life you were. Because some beings recognize that, wait a minute, I've been alive so much, how much do I know who I am? And when that question comes, they realize that knowledge was never restricted to them. When you ask, who am I, life gives you. In other words, I'm pretty sure these are popular quotes of Christ, where he said, ask and you shall receive, and know thyself. So if you want to know yourself and you don't know yourself, ask and you shall receive knowing. And what that means is that ask a question where yourself has dissolved. And so when that self has dissolved, you will see that you are present not just as the many drops of rain, but as the ocean and also the clouds that lead to an emptiness beyond conception. Man is beyond himself when he recognizes that self is an omnipresent awareness rather than just an individual present. Much blessings and namaste.